The good news is we gave Bubba Cunningham the whole summer off from the Carolina Insider podcast. As you know, he is a regular guest. We gave him the whole summer. The bad news is we thought that time period might be a time period when not that much happened. That did not turn out to be the case, but he's back with us today to catch us up on everything that's occurred all summer long. Bubba, thank you for coming in.
Oh, great to be back. And I was a little bit offended because I thought you got mad at me or something, so you didn't invite me back. Because there's things going on I could have talked about.
We know that now, and now we're going to catch up. And starting with when you say great to be back, you're almost literally just back from what appeared to be a fun trip based on your pictures that you very kindly shared on the OneDrive with the athletic department. Tell us about your trip to Paris for the Olympics, why you were there, and what you saw when you were there.
It was a great trip. Learned an awful lot, and was able to meet with a lot of people while I was there as well. And I think, as you know, I've been on a collegiate advisory council, which is a group of athletic directors all across the country that are continuing to work with the NCAA and the USOPC to make sure that we continue to sustain Olympic sports at the collegiate level, obviously the backbone of the Olympic movement. And it was demonstrated, all summer long with the incredible performances. And by virtue of that role, I have been appointed to the board of the United States Olympic Committee. So I was over there in a board capacity. So it was wonderful because I got great access to a lot of the venues, a lot of the athletes, and a lot of the kind of the inner workings of the Olympic movement and how it intersects with the International Olympic Committee as well. So all of that is to say that it was a great experience, got to see a lot, and learned that the alignment between our collegiate sports and the national governing bodies of the sport has never been more important than it is right now. And I think as the college athletics evolves through the court system and things that are being challenged, that's going to become a more and more important role to where do we put these sports in the best position for our students to be successful and continue to sponsor them at the collegiate level.
So how do we do that? Because every 4 years, everyone is very invested in Olympic sports. And then it recedes from the top of their mind a little bit, but then 4 years from now, everyone is going to want the United States to be dominant in all those Olympic sports that they just enjoyed watching.
Right. Well, I think this year, first of all, congratulations to NBC. I think between COVID and the delay of the Olympics a couple of years ago, and then the previous ones all being in Asia with the time change, it was really hard to get traction with the audience. And I think Paris did an unbelievable job in sponsoring the Olympics. I think NBC did a fantastic job in broadcasting the Olympics. The stories were personal and they were exciting, and the United States won. All of that was very good. And so I think the connectivity between college sports and the Olympic movement really got some traction this year with the Olympians Made Here mottos that they've done, the connectivity by the announcers of talking about which colleges these students went to. All of that's going to be helpful. LA 28, just in their beginning of their opening ceremonies, talked about youth sports. We need a wide pipeline of participation at the youth level, to the high school level, to the collegiate level, to the Olympic level. And I think that is starting to resonate with people. So as we talk to Congress, as we talk to the national governing bodies, how do we make sure that we have the pipeline? The economic model of college sports is changing, as we well know through these lawsuits. So the economic model of sport is going to change. And so we have to consider what are these other options that we make sure that kids continue to play.
From just a pure attendance standpoint, when you go to a big event like this, whether it's a Final Four or an every 4 years event like an Olympics, did you see anything or take note of anything that you, from a presentation standpoint or fan standpoint or anything like that, that you thought, I wonder if we could bring something kind of like that back to Chapel Hill?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of subtle things that you can do. One thing that is very odd to me is the vast majority of the spectators at the Olympic sports do not eat or drink during the competition. Concessions are really, there's nobody on the concourse. Very few people have cups or anything in the arena, but most of those events are fairly short and they're uninterrupted by commercial. So I think people got their ticket, they go in and sit there. So how do we try to make sure that the fan experience is outstanding? Because that's what they came for. They came to watch the competition. That's what the eating and drinking all took place before or after, but not during the competition. Not saying we're going to do that because we need to have concession sales and we have a lot more commercial breaks. So how do we engage the fan in that period of time? Volleyball was fascinating to me. I don't know if you could hear it on TV or not, but an ace, and they would all have the same chant, ace, 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 was just fan. The monster block. I mean, so we got to start implementing some of those international things into our games because it just made a lot of fun. And people that really weren't rooting for one of the teams that were playing, they're from Mongolia, and you've got the Chinese team playing the Taiwanese team, and they're still cheering all those chants. So we can enhance our game day experience. Those are a couple of things I learned. And then the other thing is to and from the venue. I think the access to these venues was spectacular. The metro in Paris is outstanding. So you got there easily, and you had easy access in.
Speaking of fun, did you get to hang out with Snoop Dogg?
I did not. I did not get a chance to hang out with Snoop Dogg, but I did get brownie points at home. I introduced my wife to Hoda. Now that
I saw the picture of that.
Now that check. That was good. That was good for about 24 hours.
Most people do think that Hoda is like one step below Snoop Dogg. That's the natural progression of things.
Well, I know that they're unrelated, but when you're talking about doing something that your wife would think is pretty cool,
sure,
that was pretty cool. I have to admit, it was pretty cool for me too.
I'm sure. Okay, yeah. So that was a productive trip, and then you come back, and your welcome back is that your 4-decade architect of one of college sports' greatest dynasties calls you and tells you he's retiring. Anson Dorrance, of course, has retired as Carolina's women's soccer coach. How did that unfold, and how was the best way to handle that?
Well, you say he's a legend. You say he's been here 40 years. I call him a quitter. Yeah, he's right. I said it. Yeah. I mean, we've had coaches here 50 plus, and he's 47. He's done. So I get it. No, he's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he's been great to work with, and everybody knows Anson's personality and what he's been able to do and the brand that he has created with the Carolina brand. And even in his press conference, he talked about what this place means to him and what those players mean to him. He got emotional there thinking about the players. And when this is your life's work, I'm so delighted that he can go out on top. I mean, we've been in 5 national championship games. He's won 21 of them, 22 nationally, 21 of the NCAA. And he's a legend. And as I said at the press conference, we're not going to replace Anson. We're going to hire the second coach in the history of our program. And, that's my job to do that. Anson will be a tremendous advocate for the program and for whoever he selects. I think it's pretty obvious he would like us to promote from within. But we've got great students. I'll talk to a lot of our current players, our former players, get a lot of input, and try to find the very best person for our program right now.
When you have to handle something like this with the 2024 Tar Heels, we all understand all the history. But when you have to talk to those current players and sort of get them through this time that I imagine they're surprised and a little upset and kind of unsure about what's going on, what's your message to them?
Well, the Sunday meeting, when Anson went and spoke to him, it was very emotional. They were surprised. A lot of tears, and then it leads to anxiety and questions about what's going on. But prior to going in to talk to the team, I actually went into their locker room while they weren't there and reviewed the core values of their program. The first one is no whining, and then it goes down the list about praise each other, be positive, help each other out. All of those core values that are part of that team, that's what we're going to do because that's the backbone of that program. That's why they've been so successful for so long. And that's exactly the kind of character that they exhibited to me on Sunday. They understood it was a difficult time, but they're also built for competition. They're built for handling adversity, and that's what they're going to deal with. And a number of them came up to me, thanked me for being there. A couple of them have already come over to the office, and we've talked, and so we'll continue to do that. But the strength that he has created in the team performance that we see is really nothing compared to the character that he builds within those kids.
The other big development for the month of August was the debut of the new Carolina NIL structure. We had Kevin Ryson here recently talking about that. Why does this new arrangement set Carolina up better to be successful in this environment?
Well, again, I appreciate you having Kevin in. I thought Kevin did a fabulous job articulating what it was all about. It's basically to provide greater clarity and allow our donors to understand that we're all in this together and there's a singular way to support our programs, and that's through the Carolina NIL. It also should provide clarity to our student athletes Some of the student athletes are doing a lot of things on their own. Others have agents. Others want to have information. Others want to be educated. And recognize that we've got 25% of our students are new every year. So we have to stay fresh and current. And I think it just gives us a central place to do that. And I think it'll provide much more clarity to the donors.
We hear about certain schools who are doing whatever it takes with NIL.
Yeah.
Is Carolina in a position to compete in whatever way befits Carolina with those types of schools?
Absolutely. We're going to be competitive at the highest level. And you've seen it for many, many years. We compete with fewer resources than a lot of our competition. But we have some intangible things that we have here that others don't have. And there's a commitment here to compete at the highest level. So what fits, and I think you said it really well, what fits Carolina? Not everyone thinks they do it the right way, because the right way is what fits that institution's personality. We're a little bit different. We do things differently. We're proud of the way we do it, and we'll continue to support our student athletes and our coaches. Does that mean dollar for dollar we match people? In some areas we will. In other areas we won't, but we'll be successful.
Does that change the way you look at things like facilities when you have that? Those are big financial undertakings, of course. This is also a big financial undertaking. Has that equation changed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, when people say, what's the difference of Carolina? 9 times out of 10, they say it's the people. The people make the program. It starts with the coaches. You can have a great athletic department if you have great coaches. Great coaches, which is what Anson said the other day, because they get great students to come. It starts there. Now, money is part of it. Salaries are part of it. Scholarships are part of it. Facilities are part of it. But the number one thing is get the best people you can. So you have to be in the ballpark, but you don't necessarily have to be the leader in the ballpark to win.
I can't remember the last time you were in here that everything was very definite about what was about to happen in college sports, and the landscape was very clear, and there was a clear timeline. And the latest thing is the House settlement that is on the table. What should Carolina fans know about that and how it will impact Carolina athletics?
A couple of things. One is we have suggested to the courts that we've reached a settlement. And we'll know for sure by January, February of 25 if it will be implemented in the fall of 25. High probability that it will. But there's 3 major things as part of this settlement. You can distill all of it down to all the different articles and things that have been written. We will have the opportunity to spend $22 million more on student athlete benefits beginning in 25. So that's a task, or that's a challenge for us to figure out how we're going to do that. The second thing is they're going to have roster limits at every sport. We've never had roster limits here. We have 28 teams. We have 850 student athletes. With the roster caps on those 28 teams that has been sent to the judge, that means we'll have 735 athletes in the fall of 25. They've also said no more scholarship limits. The way scholarships have worked previously, we've had 320 that we spread over 850 student athletes. Some got full, some got partials. Now we can have 735 scholarships. So we're going to have to make a determination as a department, as a university, how important are these sports, how important are the scholarships to the success of these sports, and how do we fund this new economic model? And those are all the discussions that we're having. I'm having those discussions with our chancellor, with our vice chancellors, with the Rams Club, with the General Alumni Association. Everyone is going to have to say, how important are the athletics, broad-based programming at the University of North Carolina, and how do we sustain it? Because I believe it's really important. It builds a sense of community. We talked about it. We've got over 200 events. We have 1 million people come to campus each year. This is what people refer to as the front porch. So we want to make sure that we continue to have that same national cachet that we've had over our entire history.
How important is this broad-based program to Carolina? Is that a financial question or a moral principle question?
Both. I mean, it is we want to have broad-based programming. I think that we're really good in every sport that we have. We compete on a national basis, football and basketball, and we compete on a national basis in all the Olympic sports. But as we know, those two fund everybody else. If the economic model is changing, where the money is going to go more to those 2 sports, we're going to have to find a funding source for the other ones. In addition to that, we now have the opportunity to spend $20 million more as we go forward.
So where does that money come from?
Probably from large donors like you.
from Carolina Insider Podcast title sponsorship.
We're gonna,
Boom.
Maybe a subscription model for this.
Oh.
No, but seriously, I think we're going to have to consider things we haven't done before. I really do like the idea that we're a very understated community. If you go to our football game or you go to the basketball game, we have a fair amount of advertising during the game. And when the game is over, we like to turn the video boards off and we like to turn everything off, and it goes back to a collegiate environment. We're going to see more permanent signage. We put a little bit up during COVID. We're going to put a little bit more up as we go. Sponsorships from, we took beer sponsorships. We were selling alcohol at some of our events. You may see more of that. And I think we're just going to have to get comfortable with things that we haven't traditionally done. Everyone used to talk about, NASCAR, you don't want all this. Field logos, we'll start thinking about field logos. Jersey patches, not legal yet by the NCAA rules, but we'll start thinking about jersey patches. We're going to be more commercial than we've ever been. But I think if it comes down to taking an ad that might be a little bit offensive versus dropping a program, I'd much rather take the ad. And I think most of our community feels that way. So that's the path that we'll be on.
Jones and I have said several times over the last couple of years especially that the great thing is, despite all this, eventually the games start. We're on the cusp of another school year again, and the games are going to start again. What are you looking forward to about 2024-25 Carolina Athletics?
Exactly what you said. This Saturday, we have a reception for all the incoming freshman student-athletes and their parents. It's one of the most exciting days of the year for me. You've got 200 kids coming. You've got their parents. They're excited. It's an incredible new journey for them. We want to provide them an incredible education while they're participating in their sport. And we have 280 people full-time in this department trying to support their son or daughter. And I get excited about that. It doesn't matter what sport it is. We're going to start playing soccer this weekend. We're going to play volleyball. Every single sport that we have is important. Watching the kids play in the Olympics is fantastic. So that's why we do what we do, is to provide those experiences for those kids and for everybody else in this community. And I don't know which sport's going to be our best sport this year. If Aaron doesn't win 2 national championships in the first 2 years, I'll be disappointed. No, I'm kidding. But there's going to be all kinds of success this year. And that's why it's unscripted. This is the original reality television, and that's what we're about to see.